StraightallDay.com.
Tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is what businesses to not be in. Yeah, so businesses to not be in. So we're gonna kind of go at the outcome in reverse here today, because I want to point out some things that you may be doing by mistake, but accidentally. You're not making these mistakes on purpose. You're making them by accident because you may just not be aware. That's okay. We're going to raise your awareness today, because I'm going to point some things out to you that you may not have thought of in the past. That's why we're here. But before we get into any of that, let me remind everybody or inform you that every day I send out a text message. Every morning I send out this text to everybody who's in my text community. I send this text out completely for free. It is one text, and let me tell you what this text does. It will have you starting your day being focused, sharp, and on point. So much so, in fact, that I even call this text the daily motivation. So if you want to receive this message that will have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day, I know that you do, so I shouldn't even say if. So since you want to receive this message, all you got to do is text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every morning when that daily motivation comes out, starting tomorrow morning, you will receive it because you're a member of my texting community. You don't need any other reason to get that text. Just because you're a member of my community, you're going to get that text. If you're not a member, you won't get that text. And since everybody has a phone, everyone listening to this should be a member of my texting community. So that's one thing. Here's the second thing you need to know before we get into this topic is Work on Your Game University. That is the place where you work with me directly. That's the only place to be coached by me. That's the only place where you can have live conversations with me. If you want to be able to talk to me on a regular basis, share with me what you're doing, ask me for some advice, bounce ideas off me, get some insights, especially when it comes to your mentality, which is the biggest thing that's the biggest aspect of your future success or your future failure, or somewhere in between, which we usually call mediocrity, is going to be your mentality. If you want some coaching on that mentality so that you can then strategically do what you need to do and then systematically do it over and over again and make sure you're being held accountable to execute throughout that entire process, all that happens inside of Work on Your Game University. So all you got to do to make all of that happen is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Right, the link is down below in the description, along with my number to get that daily motivation text, and we'll tell you exactly what the next step is right there on that page. It's so easy, even a caveman can do it. But we don't have any cavemen in the university yet, but if they want to join, they got to do the same thing you got to do, which is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. So now let's get into the topic, which is what businesses to not be in. So the topic here today is metaphorical more than literal, because what I'm going to talk about are the things that you don't want to focus your business on. These are not necessarily things I'm going to point out here today. These are not things that are necessarily bad things to do in business, and they are not bad things to have in your business, but they should never be the main focus nor the main driver of success in your business. They will never be the main driver of success in your business, but you should never think about them as if they are the main driver of success in your business. Because if you do, then you're going to be basically, it's kind of like running in sand. You can run in sand, but you're probably not going to run as fast as you would if you were on just some flat, hard surface. So I'm going to tell you exactly what these things are that you should never focus on as the main driver of your business. And I'm going to explain why they are not the main drivers of your business. Again, not to say that you should not do these things or have these things necessarily, depending on your situation, but they are not the main thing to make your business go. Everybody understand where I'm coming from here? Good, so let's get into it. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is what businesses to not be in. Number one, you do not want to be in the business of technical skill. You should be technically skilled. Whatever it is that you do, you should be skilled at it. But this is not the main business that you're in. So if you're in real estate, for example, you are not in the house or condominium business, even though you probably should know a lot about the houses and condominiums that you sell. If you're a coach or consultant, you are not in the business of giving advice or helping people with their problems. Although, again, you should be good at doing that. Otherwise, you probably won't have any clients. If you are in medical equipment, for example, you are not in the business of the machines and the x-rays and the MRIs or whatever it is that you're selling, a new breakthrough technology that's helping doctors and dentists serve 3 times more patients per day, or whatever it is. If you're a career coach, you are not in the business of getting people placed in jobs. Again, even though you better be placing people in jobs. Otherwise, how are you a career coach? You ain't helping anybody get a career. Even though these are things that you do, they are not the business that you are in. Everybody catch that distinction. They are things that you do. This is not the business that you are in. In each of these industries, and I'm speaking specifically to people who are entrepreneurs here. In each of these industries and in any other industry, you are in the business of selling your ability to do the thing, not your actual ability to do the thing, but your ability to sell your ability to do the thing. Because just because you can do it doesn't mean you're going to be in the business of doing it. So you got to be in the business of selling the fact that you do the thing. If you bake cakes, for example, if any of you read the book called The E-Myth Revisited, any of you haven't read that book, you should read the book, The E-Myth. And the E-Myth is not about E like email, electronic. It's E as in entrepreneur. And it explains the mindset that an entrepreneur needs to have as opposed to the mindset of a practitioner. And in that book, they use an example that I'm about to give you here of a person who's, they like to bake cakes. You like to bake cakes. If you are great at baking cakes, you're the best baker in town. Understand you're not, once you start a business, a bakery, you are no longer in the baking cakes business. Now you are in your ability to sell your baked goods business. And those are two different things. If you just want to bake cakes, then go get a job working at somebody else's bakery and let them run the business part. But if you're going to run the business, you got to think like a business person, not like a practitioner. All right, and those are two different roles. So in any industry you're in, again, you're in the business of selling your ability to do the thing. So you can help people do all the things that we listed here and not charge any money for it, or you could just go get a job doing it. In such a case, that's not entrepreneurial. And again, this topic is directed towards entrepreneurs. So because you are not making money directly from selling the thing, then you're not being an entrepreneur. But if you want to make money directly from selling the thing, you got to think about selling the thing. You got to keep the main thing the main thing. Any business that you run, the main thing is your ability to sell that thing. Everybody caught me? That's the main business that you're in. You are not in the business of your technical ability. You are in the business of selling your technical ability. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, what businesses to not be in. In other words, these should never be the main focus of your business, even though you may not necessarily be wrong for doing them. Number 2, serving your ego. Now, ego can be a very useful thing. It can be a destructive thing depending on how it is utilized. I have different episodes of this show here where we've talked about ego and the value of it, when to use it, when to not use it. We talked about checking your ego at the door at episode 1523. We talked about your ego being out of control in episode 286. We talked about how leaders cannot have fragile egos in episode 271. Fortifying your ego in episode 1803. And we talked about prioritizing success over ego in episode 1353, which is the direction I want to go here in this point. Serving your ego. If you have serving your ego as the top priority of your business, this is what happens when you're focused more on proving yourself right rather than proving yourself accurate, or rather than just being accurate, because you don't really prove accuracy. Accuracy just is. Being right is about serving your ego and proving your opinion to be superior to someone else's opinion. Anytime you see human beings arguing with each other, you're seeing people trying to be right. Both, or however many people involved, people are trying to be right. That's serving ego. That's ego driven. Arguments and opinions are based on ego. Being accurate, however, is about serving the outcome and doing what objectively, in black and white, gets you to the outcome as effectively and as quickly as possible. So if you're in a business, let's say I'm in a business and I got 3 business partners, so it's 4 of us doing business. It's not about whether my opinion or person 2's opinion or person 3's or person 4's opinion is the best one. That's not how we're going to decide how to move forward in business, because if that's the case, then we're going to have some very bruised egos. That business partnership is probably not going to last very long, and the only person who's going to come out on top each time is whoever can make the best argument for their point. Just because you can make a good argument for a point does not mean that the point is actually good. It just means you're good at arguing, or you may be more articulate or a stronger communicator, or maybe you're good at shouting down or talking circles around people. Does not necessarily mean that your ideas are good. There are people who are really good at making a great verbal case for anything that they believe. Doesn't necessarily mean that case that they made is the best case. Just because they're good at making a case doesn't mean it's good. I can make a great case for some bullshit if I wanted to. I have the communication skills to do so. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea. So you got to be careful as to when you're serving your ego or when you're serving what's accurate. And serving what's accurate, going back to my example here, if I got 3 business partners, we're going to establish this from the very beginning. All right. When we need to make a decision about how to move forward in business, all the decisions are not going to be made based on who came up with the idea or who can make the strongest argument for it, but what's the most accurate way of achieving the outcome. Let's all get clear on what's the outcome we want to achieve. Let's get clear on how we know we've achieved that outcome. And then we're going to use the process that best helps us get it done, knowing what our measuring stick is. Our measuring stick is not what I think or you or him thinks. It's about what actually achieves the outcome. That's how we focus on being accurate rather than focus on being right. And the more people can do this, the more you can head off arguments before they even begin, the less you have to worry about bruised egos. And as long as you have everybody on the same page trying to achieve the same outcome, usually you get harmony within any type of group or organization, which is just 2 or more people. You can see this in sports when everybody's focused on the same goal, which is the team being successful and winning the championship, and you have some, at least some level of ability amongst the people, you're going to get a very successful team. You can have a very talented team, on the other hand, where people have different agendas. People are serving their egos rather than serving the overall team objective. That team's not going to be as successful, even though they may have objectively more talent than the team that ends up being better than them, simply because you got everybody on the same page on the winning team and people are on different pages on the less successful team. And this happens again in any organization. This can be in a relationship, this can be in business partnerships, this can be in huge organizations, this can be in communities, societies, governments, anywhere. You got to get everybody on the same page. Everyone needs to know what that page is, and the leader, whoever the leader is or leaders inside of an organization, is their job to articulate what I'm explaining to you all right here. So any of you who's a leader of a group, and that group can be a family, it can be a partnership with you and one other person, it can be you running a small business with 10 employees, you need to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what the deal is. What's the goal? What are we actually trying to do here? As opposed to what you may think other people or other people may think they're trying to do. When everybody's on the same page, it's much easier to get things done. And things go left, especially when you have skilled people, when not everyone is not on the same page as to where exactly we're going. It's not that y'all don't have the ability to, it's just not everybody's on the same page. You got people on different pages, y'all gonna come up with different stories if you follow that metaphor. So you gotta get clear on what is going to get us to the outcome as effectively and as quickly as possible. Many people go astray when they focus on serving their egos and serving their opinions rather than serving what is accurate and doing what objectively makes the most sense. This is the reason why coaching and consulting industries exist. Not because people are dumb and they need help accessing information. People get coaches and consultants because when you have an extra set of eyes and ears around you, you have other people who have seen what you haven't seen. Especially people who are insightful, who have experience and the ability to communicate their insights and experience. That includes, and communication includes both listening and speaking, by the way. Then you'll be sure to not make so many ego-driven decisions. Rather, you'll be making accuracy-driven decisions, which means you're probably more likely to achieve your desired outcome, which has nothing to do with anybody's opinion. So therefore, nobody's ego can be bruised because we're only focused on one thing. What's going to get us to the outcome? Not who's right and who's wrong. As soon as any group starts to get into egos, who's right and who's wrong, who's getting more attention than the other person, who's getting more whatever that people value than the other person, and you start focusing on your individual agenda as opposed to the overall team agenda. As soon as that happens in any group, team, society, or organization, things start falling apart and the success goes down immediately. It happens every single time. Everyone who's listening to this, if you're over the age of, let's say if you're over the age of 30, you've probably been part of a group that was less successful than it could have been, or a group whose success did not last as long as it could have lasted, simply because someone or someones in that group started thinking about their own individual egos more than they were thinking about what is the overall team goal, and or whoever was the leader of that team failed to keep everyone focused on the main goal, or they failed to sell everyone on focusing on the main goal. They told them, but they failed to sell people on it, couldn't get everybody on board, and therefore people start going in their own direction, and then everything fell apart from there. Or and some of you may be in the midst of watching it fall apart right now, and there's not much you can do about it because it might be a little bit too late. This is what happens when everyone's not on the same page as far as where you're going. And as far as you, when on this topic here. We're still on point number 2. And the second point here, again, is serving your ego. This is not the business that you're in. If you are doing this yourself, you're serving your ego, you are not achieving the outcomes that you could achieve because you're focused on what's going to make me feel good ego-wise rather than what's going to help me do good accuracy-wise. Again, ego versus accuracy, they are not the same. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, we're talking about what businesses to not be in. Number 3, you're not in the business of quote-unquote better than. What is the better than business? This is when you attempt to do business by being better than the alternative options that your prospects have. So you could buy from them and them and them, but I'm better than all of them, so that's why you should buy from me. This is not the business that you should be in. I don't mind you having this idea. I don't mind you having this mindset. All right? When I put myself out there, all right, you listen to this show right now, Work on Your Game Masterclass. There are other shows on the podcast apps that you could be listening to. I do believe, serving my ego, that my show is better than all of those other shows. But I will not try to sell you on listening to the show by saying that I'm better than them. I'm going to sell you by giving you what you need. And because of that, you're going to listen to the show whether you think it's better or not. It's not really about it being better. I'm going to tell you why. See, when you attempt to do business by being better than alternative options, there's several reasons why you don't want to do this. This is a dead-end business. Here's why. One reason that it is very hard to prove that you are better than someone else. Now, you can have the subjective opinion that you're better than someone else, but can you actually prove that you're better than someone else? It's hard to actually prove that. It's very difficult to prove because it's very subjective and it's all based on people's opinions and perspectives. So while it may be your opinion that you're better than person A, B, C, what if somebody else thinks A, B, C are all better than you? Or who's right, who's wrong? There's really no objective way. Often, there's not an objective way to prove it, unless maybe if you're playing sports, which is the closest thing we get to a meritocracy in life. Most of you are not professional athletes. So how are you going to prove that your financial services company is better than the next financial services company? How can you prove that your bakery makes better cakes and cupcakes than the other bakery on the other side of town? How can you really prove it? There's no way to prove it. Now, you can show them, hey, we helped our clients make more money. Does that necessarily prove that you're better? I mean, again, those are two different measures. Again, one is ego, one is accuracy. So let's focus on, and when you focus on accuracy, it's much easier to prove your point. You see what I mean here? So if you, instead of saying I'm better than them, just say, look, here are the returns my clients got. Now, I don't have to tell you I'm better. Here's my returns, here's their returns. Let them decide. You don't have to say I'm better. Because then when you say you're better, now it becomes opinionated, it becomes opinion-based, subjective, and ego-driven. You don't need to do business like that. And again, you also get in the business of getting other people to agree with your opinion. Any of you ever try to convince a bunch of people to agree with your opinion? Did it work? Maybe if they already had that opinion, but if they didn't, you probably failed. I mean, it's pretty much how it works. So it's very hard to prove a subjective opinion. And the last time I checked, it's very hard to force another person to think something different than what they want to think. Secondly, it doesn't really matter if you're better than the next person. Honestly, it doesn't matter. All right? It does not matter if my podcast is better than the next podcast or my university is better than the next person's university, because that's not the reason why somebody would give you money anyway. That's not the reason people don't sign up for your stuff or buy your books or sign up for your course because your course is better than the next course. That's not why they do it. People sign up for your stuff because they believe whatever it is you're offering can help them achieve an outcome, and not necessarily because they compared you to every other option out there. Right? Most people don't have the resources to even do that. Your job is to get in front of the right people at the right time who have the right need, and they have the right mindset and also the resources to move forward with you. That's what you're looking for if you're doing business. Your job is to present them with the right offer so that they can easily say yes to you. And when they say yes, they give you money. That means you get something. And then you give them whatever it is that you're selling, sharing, offering. They get something. It's a fair exchange. Everybody's happy. And hopefully you can do it over and over again. Now you got business. Who you are better than or who is better than you is honestly completely irrelevant. It doesn't really matter who's better than who. Again, you can think about it all you want. You can even say it to yourself. You can even write it down and put it on your vision board and stick it to your mirror in the morning so you see it every day. I'm better than all these people. But when you go out there and you're actually presenting yourself and doing business, don't do business by saying I'm better. Do business by doing what I'm telling you here. And the opposite of these points that I'm going to recap right here today. Topic once again is what businesses to not be in. So these are the things that you do not want to focus your business on. Again, not necessarily things that are bad to do. You just don't want these to be the main drivers. Number one, technical skill. You're in real estate. You're not in the house or condominium business. If you're a bakery, you're not in the cookies and cupcakes business. You're in the business of selling your ability to do the skill, not the skill itself. Number two, serving your ego. This is what happens when you're focused more on proving yourself right rather than being accurate. Accuracy is about what achieves the objective outcome. Being right is about what serves your ego. Many people get so focused on ego, and all human beings have egos. That's why this is a challenge. Many people get so focused on serving their ego rather than serving what is accurate that they never actually get to the outcome. All right. Make sure that you are making accuracy-driven decisions rather than looking at things and making ego-driven decisions based on your opinions. Number 3, being better than. This is when you attempt to do business by proving that you're better than someone. It's very hard to prove that you're better than someone else. It's doubly hard to get anyone else to believe and agree with you that you're better than someone else unless they already believed it before you came along. Now, trying to get someone to change their opinion through your eloquence, I think I'm pretty articulate. It's very hard to do. I don't know a single person who's ever been able to change someone's mind from one direction to another just by words. Or usually it doesn't work. But you can prove it by being accurate consistently to where people have no choice but to either go away and never say anything to you again, or they got to come around and say, okay, you were right. You proved yourself. Not right as in ego right, but right as in accurate is what they mean to say. But most people say right. So who you are better than or who's better than you is largely irrelevant. All that matters is what outcomes is being produced by who. That's what matters the most. That's the business you want to be in. You're in an outcome business, performance and results based. You hear me say that often. With all that said, text me so you can get my daily motivation every single day for free. My number is 305-384-6894. Text me now. You'll be getting that message starting tomorrow morning. And secondly, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is where you get to work with me directly. You want to be coached by me. You want to get direct access to me. You want to get access to my bulletproof mindset frameworks, the business builder framework. That's a strategy process for your business. Work on your game systems so you can systematize your actions both at work and at home and in between. And the next mission framework, so you are consistently being held accountable to execute, and you're executing over and over again. And if you have a challenge with consistency and being you're procrastinating a lot, you're not being as productive as you want to be, and most importantly, as effective as you want to be, all of that is covered inside of Work on Your Game University. And what's the cherry on top of all of this is you get coached directly by me through this process. This is the only place you can get all of that. There's nowhere else in the world, no one else in the world who can offer what I just laid out for you. Only place you can get it is by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. So I'll see you over there. Work on your game. Dre all day.